Imagine a world where peace reigns absolutely, where there is no violence, hunger, or corruption. A world where Jesus Christ rules with perfect justice, where the knowledge of God covers the earth as the waters cover the sea. For 1,000 years, this will be the reality. The Millennial Kingdom will be the most extraordinary period in human history, a time when the very Prince of Peace will reign over all nations. The prophecies of Isaiah will be fulfilled before everyone's eyes. The wolf will dwell with the lamb, the child will play by the viper's hole, and the earth will be restored to its original splendor. Those who survive the Great Tribulation will enter this kingdom and live in a transformed world. Justice will be absolute, the government will be holy, and every decision will be made with righteousness. There will be no corruption, oppression, or abuse of power. Sin will be restrained, and the earth will experience an unprecedented period of prosperity. The saints who returned with Christ will rule alongside him, helping to govern the nations with wisdom and love. The days of pain and suffering will be nothing but a distant memory. For the first time since the fall of man, the world will live under the perfect leadership of God himself. And then, something unthinkable happens. After 1,000 years of peace, Satan will be set free. He will go out to deceive the nations, gathering an army as numerous as the sand of the sea. But wait, how is this possible? How can someone who lived under Christ's direct rule rebel against him? How can someone who saw his glory, experienced his goodness, and walked in a perfect world still choose to follow the enemy? The truth that few want to accept is that the human heart is desperately corrupt. The Bible warns us in Jeremiah 17:9, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" Sin is not merely a matter of external circumstances, but a condition rooted in human nature. Many believe that if God visibly manifested himself, if he performed a miracle before their eyes, then they would believe. But the reality of the Millennial Kingdom proves that this is not true. For 1,000 years, Jesus will be present, ruling with justice and love, and yet, when Satan is released, multitudes will still follow him. This leads us to an undeniable fact. Unbelief is not the result of a lack of evidence, but of the hardness of the heart. This is exactly what Jesus said in Luke 16:31, "If they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rise from the dead." How many times have we heard people say, "If God gave me a sign, I would believe"? But the truth is that rejection of God does not come from a lack of signs, but from a refusal to submit to his authority. In the end, it is not a matter of proof, but of choice. Satan knows this and will use this reality against humanity. When he is released, he will not need to use coercion or force. He will simply offer the choice that many were already waiting for, the chance to reject God and follow their own desires. He will deceive the nations, gather an army, and march against God's beloved city. The rebellion will be massive, a final proof that even in a perfect world, the heart of man, without true transformation, will always incline toward evil. But this last revolt will be short-lived. Fire will come down from heaven and consume God's enemies. Satan, the great deceiver, will be cast into the lake of fire, where the beast and the false prophet already are. His torment will be eternal, with no chance of return. Divine justice will finally be established, and evil will never rise again. Now think about this. If even in the Millennial Kingdom, under the visible rule of Christ, millions will still reject God, what does this tell us about the times we live in now? How many people today are preparing to be part of Satan's army, hardening their hearts, ignoring the truth, and rejecting the grace that God offers? The world is already being prepared for this final rebellion. Unbelief, the hardness of heart, the refusal to submit to God, all of this is already present and growing rapidly. 2 Corinthians 4:4 tells us that the God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ. This spiritual blindness will not just happen at the end of time. It is already here. Satan is already deceiving millions, convincing them that they can live without God, that they can create their own truth, that they can reject the word and face no consequences. And sadly, many are accepting this lie. But there is a choice. There is a different path. The Bible exhorts us in Romans 12:2, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." The decision to follow Christ cannot be based only on external circumstances. It is not about seeing miracles or living in favorable times. It is about a heart truly surrendered to the Lord. The great question is, where do you stand in this story? Are you living as if Jesus is just a distant idea or as your King and Savior? Time is running out. Satan is gathering his army, and every person, whether consciously or not, is taking their position. Do not wait until it is too late. The time to choose the light is now.